Morning, folks. Just thought I'd do an update. Might be a bit of a long one, might not be. Not too sure. But anyway, I've been looking, if you're following the channel, I've been looking at Knees Over Toes Guy, and someone else in the comments, in Knees Over Toes Guy's comments, recommended the Bioneer. The Bioneer, like the bionic pioneer, the Bioneer. So he's an English chap, well well stacked, well fit and healthy, and got some great videos. And one of the videos is on running, and he talks about how it helps you to calm. It doesn't help you precisely, it's just that the activity of running is conducive to being calm, not cycling, running. So it's a great video. He runs 2 miles while he's talking in the camera. He's not out of breath. He seems like a good go-to. Like Knees Over Toes Guy to me is a miracle. Oh my goodness. The crowd in the comment section is par excellence. Everyone's a sportsman, or everyone's got a story. Everyone was wanting to get fit during this time of these stupid times of this phony corona. People are, they're not getting fit stuck at home watching TV, which is basically what we've been getting policed to do. So people have been having a lot of time to explore, their lifestyles, and definitely fitness, health, getting back to like a normality outside of the normality that the crooks and the politicians will give us, will allow us to have, type of thing. So there's a big trend. Obviously the crooks and the politicians have got their plans, and that's why there's a big delay, except in Israel, which is open. Not pointing in any directions as to who's behind it or anything. But that should be self-evident by now. And not that I'm pointing it out, that the people who are in play are pointing it out for themselves. It's self-evident. Anyway, on a lighter note, so personally, I've been doing, it's like static running, but it's with an incline to go backwards. So I did put up a video about it when I first found Knees Over Toes Guy, and I was really impressed with this idea of running backwards. So someone told me that in one of the comments section, Muhammad Ali, Cassius Clay, call him what you will, he ran backwards a lot. So I was in Alexander Technique class, lesson, whatever you want to call it, about 2 years ago, and we were doing walking because it's really interesting. And the teacher, Alice, she has me walking backwards, over months, practicing walking backwards as well as forwards, but backwards. So when I seen the running backwards, I latched onto it straight away. Anyway, I've been tinkering. I've got a sports background and a very active lifestyle background, coming from a construction background, working as a bricklayer on heavy industry, civil engineering, building airports, universities, warehouses, hospitals, schools, shopping centres, big concerns, not like houses and garden walls, although I have built them too. My main priority was in big works, £1 billion contracts, billion+ contracts. So, I was surrounded by fit and healthy men because well, in the main of it, at least when I first got into it, that was the sort of the ethic of the work man, fit and healthy to go to work, couple of pints and dinner with your family and spend the night with your wife after the children go to bed, and then work the next day, your contribution to society and a little bit of coin for the weekend. So the ethic was fit and health. But now, there's no. I mean, the heavy industry collapsed me, like, because I was doing sport as well. I was doing an extreme sport, wushu, as well as some parkour, cycling, running, like active swimming, diving when I could. Yeah, so there's a lot of talk in the Pioneer and the knees over toes guy, who these two guys, they're pretty much at certainly the public end of sports coaching or health fitness coaching, call it what you will. Knees over toes guy, he posted in some old videos when he was working as a coach, rather than running, I think it was rather than running his ATG program, which he runs now, which if I was a younger man, I'd definitely be looking into. And if I can get up to scratch in this preliminary period where I'm, offering this insight into what my findings are about where I'm up to so far. I'm just about over a month in, I think. May not even be, maybe just over a month, maybe less. But the gains I've made have been incredible. So the idea of static running backwards, knees over toes guy, does it on a treadmill. So whereas you be running into the treadmill and you can incline, it. So like if you're running flat and the conveyor belt's moving like this, well, he's turned round and he's running. So the bar is there. There's like a bar that you hold on to as you're running. Well, when you turn round and you put it behind you, you push back on it, so you don't switch the machine on, and the conveyor belt is free. If you've ever pushed the car, it's always better to turn round and push it back. Your bigger muscles involved in pushing that way are more advantageous for leverage. So it makes sense to be running backwards. I mean, I've been out a couple of times and gone backwards on the streets, in the park, what have you. And wow, your awareness just opens up on a whole new level. Because just think if you were doing the same thing, which is running forwards, walking forwards, you're always going in this direction. Now you're giving your body a rest. You're going in a different direction. You're using the muscle groups in a different way. You're organizing your brain structured in a different way. Think of this. When Alexander was formulating his technology, Alexander Technique, a lot of the research that went on during and after, his sad death and everything, a lot of it's been like looked at from even before the baby arrives, when the baby is, in the gestation period, when in the fetal period. The way the body grows, like for example, the Pioneer, he's just reading a book now, like super cutting edge technology in sport and fitness and health and coaching, and it's talking about the fascia. Well, the fascia is among the first formations of the body, and it's a spongy like substance. This is why you need to drink water. It's like it's this thing that's been overlooked, but in Alexander Technique they were looking at it years ago, now they're looking at it again scientifically, and now it's, it's brimming over into the sports and coaching field because it is of massive importance. And there is a guy, Jan van der someone, who, a Dutch coach. He was a Dutch Olympic coach. He's done a lot of work into it. I think he was at one of the Dutch football teams as well as a sports physio, something like that, or a medical physio. So we're making big strides in society and in science, and understanding the technology that we're born into, being our physical being. It's so complex in many ways, and obviously the internet is full of disinformation about who we are and what we do. Well, as a ground zero, isn't it good to start with a physicality that you can relate to and say, well, I'm physically healthy now. And by understanding, by acknowledging to yourself, you're understanding that you are physically healthy. It's a great starting point to maintain health, become healthier, and sort of fit yourself into society then from this more healthier dynamic. It's probably not a great example, but there was a guy who ran the decathlon, he entered into the decathlon, and he was jobless, unemployed. He spent all his time just working on his, on his fitness and stuff. So he won gold in the decathlon, and he was hailed as a hero because he was the right colour in Britain. And it's a good example of, you don't need to depend on 80 hours a week or whatever silly hours industry is demanding of you. Because, look at stress, depression, mental health. A lot of them are causes of this society that, the crooks and the politicians will tell us that's the best they can do. But personally, I've found that my voice doesn't count in that world, other than them running away from it. The way I entered into work was, you were expected to produce what it was that you were contracted for in order to receive payment that you were contracted for. So these crooks and politicians, crooks/politicians, think of it as you will, what are they actually producing that is matching on a scale with your wages, your salary, your unemployment benefit, universal credit, whatever, that you're expected to perform on relative to the values that they get? Unlimited expenses, free meals, invites to all the big balls and ceremonies, and yet it's high pressure. But isn't that what they've learned to handle, so that they can be crooks and or / politicians? So the thing is like, healthy people can physically resonate at a higher frequency together, rather than unhealthy people. And obviously the crooks / politicians have been breeding a culture of, through the deliberate mismanagement of the country and the EU and the whole world, basically, because it is the globalists. They're not called the globalists for nothing, and the whole world is in the toilet. They're deliberately making it more easy to be unhealthy than they are making it easier to be healthy in the main of it. the rocket science, the phone technology, the computer technology, all of the resources that have gone into these undoubtedly great things. One of the first things to go, speaking of rocket science, one of the first things to lose all its clout were all the airplane companies, all the air travel companies. Now, one of the things about air travel is that 95 to 97% of the cost of air travel is tax. When you're buying a ticket to travel, it's only about £30 wherever you want to go. And how do I know this? Well, when the soldiers go, because the soldiers they live tax free, all of their stuff that they buy in the army camp, it's all tax free. So whereas a packet of cigarettes will cost you like, what are they, 12 or 15 pounds or something for 20 cigarettes, it's about 26 pence in the army barracks, because it's all tax free. And it's the same with the charge on the flight costs. When they fly, it's about £30 wherever you go, because it's not. Fuel is free. Fuel is free. In fact, worse, if you're British, did you know that it was a guy called Cox? I think his name's Brian Cox. And it was him who found oil in Saudi Arabia. And from there, Saudi Arabia has prospered on the oil that was found by a British man. Now, I've never heard anyone mention a thank you on the media from Saudi Arabia. I only just heard the other day from a kid from Jordan. It was a recording from the 1950s where he said to an Israeli Jewess, she should thank England that Israel was made. Well, apparently Israel is only built on the back of the Holocaust, which, if you watch the Leuchter report by Fred Leuchter, the guy who is a ex-gas chamber builder in the American jail system, where they still have currently, I think it's in 2 states in America, they still have death by execution. So he went there, no skin in the game. He went to Auschwitz, and I think he certainly went to Auschwitz anyway. And, you know, the death chamber, the showers where the gas, whatever, was supposed to have been. So he said, well, it'd be in the walls, you know, I'd be able to find the chemicals in the wall. And he said there was no, like, when he took it to the laboratory and tested it, put it through the rigorous testing, that he would know what to do, being a gas chamber expert and builder. So he said, no, there's absolutely no chemicals that would kill man present in these, and here are the chemicals that are present. And then from then he never got work again. Just saying. So, aside from they had the sports track at Auschwitz, we're now on the brink. Like, it's not. Boris Johnson this morning, he's just come out with another cracker. He's like, oh well, we may not be able to lift the lockdown if things keep getting worse. You know, because that's his jibe, isn't it? That's his remit, to make sure that everyone's at heel and under control. You know, the thing about parens patria, you know, the country is the fatherland, and that's who we look to as our domicile. And the parens patria is like the patriarchy. There's still all a load of twaddle. If you look at the section that gave women the vote and I will get back to the health, because this is psychologically how our health's been undermined. You know, I'm sort of like trying to give you the keys to understand why the society is being made so like malignant, if you like, because of all these psychological tricks that these crooks slash politicians are playing all day long with the media on top of it. You know, the media is just the propaganda outlet for the crooks slash politicians. You go and try and start your own media company up. You go and try and be a politician. You know, get into the world, get into the underworld, and see how it's ran, and see if there's any creativity about like the underworld. You know, there's no like there's no creativity. There's only mainstream underworld. You can be, you know, a nightclub owner who moves drugs and launders the money through there, or you can be like betting concerns, like all these betting concerns that are basically offshore tax concerns slash drug money laundering concerns. That's their function. Why do you think the economics is being undermined so heavily? It's not. We're not in austerity. Look at the reflective angle. Okay, go on knees over toes, guy. Go on the Pioneer. Look in the comments. Look at the fervor, the buzz with the people who are like enjoying this new methodology, this creative outlet of training, which is right at the cutting edge, and it's at the cutting edge of creativity as well. You know, this is art in action. Like, if you love beauty and art, you know, it's your duty to check these things out and pass it on to people who, if it may not interest you, certainly get the word out, because ultimately we can have a healthier society just based off a little bit of technology that, you know, during this stupid time of absolute madness that's been allowed. Because I was in China in the SARS in Beijing in 2004, and they shut that down in 2 weeks. You know, these crooks slash politicians have been telling us that it's a chicken virus was the SARS one. A chef had sneezed on a chicken in a kitchen in Guangzhou, former Canton, big city that used to like belong to Britain. You know, it was basically an opium trader's haven. I think I give you a quick statistic into the Chinese opium wars, of which there were 3. Benjamin Disraeli was the prime minister during the second one. He invented the empire. The Indians didn't want the British there anymore. They were doing well. They'd had the leg up that they needed. Same with Gold Coast, which is called Ghana now. I was watching this. I will get back to my point though. I was watching. It was like a student exchange from the 1950s, and the Ghanaian, which is called Gold Coast then, he said, yeah, we did need a leg up, and we got it off the British. We couldn't have done it on our own, but now we live the Western lifestyle, and it's amazing. Well, Ghana, they've got the open door now for all of anyone who's from the African diaspora around the world can go to Ghana, and you know, like a right of return, because Ghana's dead prosperous. And here's the historical fact: is the Ghanaian or Gold Coastian is telling you it's because of the British, because of the technology. Same with South Africa. South Africa wasn't abundant because the Boers and the farmers built it up to be abundant that way. Oh no, they invested what they'd made from farming into British technology, like mechanical engineering, and brought it to South Africa and made South African society prosperous, which drew a lot of the migration from the more northern African countries, more northern than South African, which they called the Bantu at the time. I'm not fully sure on the terminology, but they just kept coming, and people were hiding them illegally because there was such a industrial revolution. That's what it should be called. It was an industrial revolution. And this is why South Africa is now back, it fell back. There's no industrial revolution to have. At least with industrial revolution, it creates wealth, creates luxury of, for a luxurious lifestyle. It's smart thinking. But now we've got technology. It doesn't produce anything other than verbiage. I'm only using technology now to reach you as a communicative tool, which hopefully it is of value, but productive-wise, I haven't produced anything. I'm just spouting my mouth off, aren't I? I'm only, a bag of hot air, a lot of people would say, because they don't open their minds up to what possibilities and potentials that we actually live in today. And certainly the Africans are feeling it because they're looking at the technology going, well, we didn't design this. Where's our place going to be when the whole world is automated? Because you're looking at Bezos, Musk. I mean, the Africans aren't ignorant about what's going on. They know who's who and what's what. In many ways, we're naive. The West is naive to the media. So naive. Just get back to the point of the opium quickly, is that so in Canton, which eventually became Hong Kong, which isn't too far from Canton, but Canton was the British enclave, if you like. But the snidey arses, the flaming, what are they called? Sassoon family, them snidey arses. Go and watch the Jews of Shanghai documentary, where the Jewess is telling you, well, the Jews, it was the Baghdadi Jews, the ones who were kicked out of Baghdad. Well, I don't know if they actually were kicked out because apparently they were arrested and it was a big ransom to get them out, which to me smells a bit fishy, because then they went to Mumbai, like modern day Mumbai, or what used to be called Bombay. And now they're sort of in with the British, away from the Muslim. And yet when you look at Persia, where does all the heroin come from? Afghanistan, Pakistan. That was former Persia, wasn't it? And parts of India, which is where the Sassoon family pop up again. And then they pop up in Shanghai. And then there's all sorts of opium troubles there. 3 wars over 100 years, from the first one in 1830, where Lord Rothschild is the first Jewish MP to sit in the Houses of Parliament, and he's knocked back 7 times. So how do they accommodate that? Well, they changed the law. They changed the law so he doesn't have to take the Christian oath to the king. It's a license to lie. So that was the first opium war. Then the second opium war, bear in mind, the Chinese government allowed 1 barrel of opium a day. See, because much of the argument about the opium trade in China was that, well, the Chinese want to buy it. So with a free market economy, the Chinese should have the right to buy it. So we're going to enforce that on the Chinese government, which is what happened. That's what the wars were about. It was about free market to sell. So the Chinese did actually allow 1 barrel a year of opium into China. Bear in mind, look at how successful Chinese medicine is. Chinese medicine must have had some clout in China at the time, I would have thought. It's supposed to have lasted 5,000 years and be Chinese, isn't it? So yeah, the heroin was getting shipped into China at the rate of not 1 barrel a year, which is the legal amount, but 250 barrels per day. So work that out. And that's why when you look at the pictures of the opium dens, there's just an endless supply of people smoking opium because China was super rich. It was actually, the Chinese were so rich, they would only deal in gold and silver, and they'd taken all of the gold and silver from the merchants, that there was no more gold and silver left for merchants to buy silk, tea, spices, other things that whatever people would buy from China then. I don't know, fish and chips, something like that. Whatever it was, that's the historical reason why they needed to get opium in there to get money out, so that they could, have a nice cup of tea. It sounds amazingly stupid, but look what the empire was built on. They went to Burma, India. Look where your teas come from today. Well, that's all from like China at the time. Silk was another Chinese one, but I think there was a monk, so-called Japanese, but you've got to watch all these terms about Japanese and African and Dutch and British and all these, because take the mask off, the big nose pops out. So the thing is like, there's an actual film called The Opium Wars, it's got American subtitles. It's a great film. It's free on YouTube. I've watched it a couple of times, and it shows you in there that the militia, the local militia, they were up in arms, which is where you come into the third Opium War. Now, what did sneakily done, the big noses, was they'd held talks with the Dowager Empress in Xi'an, which is the Chinese way to say Zion. So Zion actually existed in China, where the terracotta army soldiers come from. Now, why were they hidden for so long? It's like the pyramids, isn't it? The pyramids were hidden for so long, and there's not one. What would the Jews say? They were there for 400 years as slaves, and yet there's not one mention of it in their texts, in their ancient texts. Not a mention of the pyramids, and not a mention of the terracotta army. And yet we see today that the Kaifeng Jews have been there for thousands of years. The word slippery barely defines them. Sly and slippery, slimy and horrible. And I'm not just saying that as a vindictive way to sort of, air some sort of personality trait that I've got or something like that, I'm a sound-minded fella. I've done me time, I've done me penance, I've worked hard, I've contributed, I've won medals in sport for Great Britain. No one from the British government has given me anything that I don't deserve. And I certainly don't, when they do offer something, I have the rights to waive that benefit. And I do, a fair bit of waiving of those benefits. Which, if you haven't seen, I've got on an old channel, the history and development of trust law in England. That is a video I put out 10 years ago. I think it's had like 100,000 hits or something. And I've done some wushu videos, some wushu training videos, and showing you like what I accomplished. The training video, the first ones, had 26,000 views, or did have last time I looked, but seems well popular. So I got me assistant coaching certificate, but I haven't coached anywhere. So, my potentials are laid up. I was training kids to do bricklaying at the college on a temporary contract that the contract then got handed to someone who works part-time as a prison officer. So that was me. I haven't worked since then. That was 2009. And I've basically been doing research, and not insignificant research, ever since. At least I feel it's not insignificant. And we've done, like, I've made a lot of great friends, and we've done and accomplished a lot of great work on the back of, like, we still hold the high moral ground, like the moral high ground, as it were. I don't drink, I don't take drugs, I don't smoke, I don't have any vices. I play classical guitar and flamenco guitar, and I do art. I'm always looking for outlets, I'm always looking for work. But these things don't seem to come my way. But in the meantime, I'm still going to continue on with the research of why these crooks / politicians are so despotically getting away with everything, that they're total despots and they're getting away with it. I don't know why the army haven't come in to the Parliament buildings, dragged them out by the hair, give them a kicking on the street, drag them to the courts, drag the judges out who've been there before, and have military hearings what's going on, because this is an attack. It's an attack on civil society from a covert military unit. That's what's going on. This is organised to a military degree, and if you think it's not, then you're highly naive, and you need to get your head out of the sand and wake up, get yourself fit, start being open-minded, and start reading and understanding the world from a point of view of point blank. Start point blank and start asking yourselves, why is the economy in a debt spiral? Why before 19